with that, we will give them the stage and hear about the story of their startup from Carleton to here.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, thank you all again for coming. It's a Thursday night. I'm sure you have a ton of other really cool, fun things to do, except for you, Jason. But we wanted to share our story with you, both our stories individually as well as the story of building Homi, because it's been quite a journey over the last 4 years, and there's been a ton of learning experiences, a lot of failures, but the key tenet of all of this is that there have been a ton of incredible Carleton alumni helping us through the process, and so we just thought if we could share this story, then it could inspire the next generation of Carleton people helping Carleton people. So with that, I introduce our CTO, Jital. I figured we could spend maybe 30 seconds introducing ourselves, how we ended up at Carleton. Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Fine. Okay. So I'm Phil. Chino Hills. I was recruited to play tennis at Carleton. I never ever expected to be in Northfield, Minnesota, ever in my life. I joke about this sometimes, but I had never seen snow before. I honestly didn't even really have white friends before I moved to Minnesota. I grew up in an all-Asian community in Southern California. And by the end of Carleton, I was living with 5 large bearded football and rugby players, and I'd learned how to chug beer and watch football and do American things, which was actually a really cool cultural experience for me. And getting to Carleton, there was with Asian families, it's study hard, work hard, get in a good college, but no one actually tells you what to do after you get there. And so I just applied for what all the seniors were applying for, which was investment banking jobs. And I had no idea what investment banking was. I didn't know how to get a job. I just did it because everyone else was doing it. And I pretty quickly realized it's hard to get a job on Wall Street when you're coming from Northfield, Minnesota. And I didn't have a dad at Goldman Sachs who could just pass my resume in. And so I just emailed every single Carleton alum working in finance off the alumni directory. Some of those people are actually in this room right now. And there are people who've had very deep impact on my life and my career, so thank you. And that turned into this really cool adventure of just meeting really cool alumni. And I'll never forget this one alum. His name was Hikaru Teramoto. He was the 2004 econ major. He was running Japanese equity sales at Morgan Stanley at the time. I was a junior, and I emailed him. He was like, I have 10 minutes to talk to you on WhatsApp. I was like, okay, I'm in. And so I get on the phone, I'm super nervous, and he asks, what do you do at Carleton? And I say, I'm an econ major, I'm part of the investment group, and I work at the rec center stringing tennis rackets. And he's like, oh, I used to work at the rec center. Does Mickey Shower still work there? I'm like, yeah, Mickey's still there, we just did our timesheets. And he's like, oh, do you read the Wall Street Journal? Yes. What's the S&P trading at? 1580? All right, send me a resume. And those 10 minutes quite literally changed my life. And I started off on the high frequency trading desk at Morgan Stanley. And that's actually where it all started. Because you think that getting the job, I got the job. But then Hikaru kind of took me and he started showing me the ropes and was like, these are the cool people on the trading floor, these are the people who are crazy, you should avoid them, and let's get a drink on Thursday, and this is how life works. And that was the relationship that frankly I needed. And because I didn't grow up with the polish of upper middle class America, I didn't even know how to use a knife or a fork before I got to Carleton. And so learning how to navigate that world was huge to me, and it's relationships like those that ultimately inspired Homi. You want to follow that up?
Sure.
Harsh.
So, I grew up in Gurnee. I went to a public school of about 4,000 kids. It was too large to have one campus, so we had 2. And how I found out about Carleton is through this program called the Schuler Scholar Program, and it's a program that's local to kind of the northern Chicago suburbs, started by this guy named Jack Schuler, who has a lot of money and happens to be a Carleton trustee. Or is he still a trustee? I don't know. He used to be a Carleton trustee. So in the program I had a mentor. His name is Ryan Smith, Carleton class of 2008 math major. And during the time when we were trying to look for colleges, Carleton wasn't really on the list of like official Schuler schools, which is kind of odd since Jack was a trustee. So Ryan was like, Carleton's a great school. We should just take a minivan and have 8 of us pile in there and drive up to Northfield. We got lost a couple times, and we ended up going like on an unofficial tour because there wasn't any. It was during the summer, so there wasn't any official tours being taken, and it was just like Ryan and me and a couple of friends, and we had a really great time like in Northfield on campus, and then we stayed in the country inn hotel and watched Harry Potter. So that kind of like wrapped up my Carleton visit experience, and I really liked it, so I applied and got in and came here. And then like once getting to Carleton, I like really didn't know what I wanted to do, like both in class with classes and like with my life. I ended up living on 2nd Goodhue with a bunch of like sophomore computer science majors, and they were like, everybody should take a CS class because CS is the next big thing. And at that time, like the CS department was like 26 majors a year, and then I guess with their great sales skills, they brought up the major to like 56. And I took my first computer science class my spring term of freshman year with Jeff Ondick, who was like, hey, you are actually decent at this, so you should keep going at it. And I took more classes and majored in it. Yeah. And so we originally started Homi with 5 of us. It was the 2 of us and then 3 of our other CS friends. They all went to go work for Google after graduation. Well, one went to work for another tech company. And we don't blame them. Google's offering them like $150K starting and like $50K in bonus. We had no funding and half an idea. So when we graduated, we just kind of rented out a house where we lived and worked together. I think some of the folks in here have been in that house and have eaten the Chinese food that I've cooked in that house. And it was just a really fun time. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. We just wanted to build a website to bring students and alumni together. And we didn't know what that was going to look like. We didn't know what features it was going to have. There have been so many different iterations of Homi. But we just knew that students, alumni, online, good things. And I think over the years we realized that it's not just about student-alumni networking. First off, networking sucks, right? Networking is like, I don't mean to say it's just for old people, but it feels like it's left over from the 80s, and it's like you're just going around getting business cards and like pretending to like have these stuffy conversations, and it's like, oh, we just played golf at the country club, let's network. So we originally wanted to solve that problem, right? How do we make it less awkward? And then we realized that a big problem is really around recruiting. It's around hiring, because every company wants to hire great people. And there's no doubt that Carleton people are awesome. But the ROI, the return on investment of sending a recruiter to Northfield, Minnesota, it just doesn't make sense, right? You have 2,000 people, half of them go to grad school, the other half don't believe in capitalism. And maybe, just maybe you have... It would end for sure. But there's 50 to 100 kids who would even consider going into private sector. So from Target or Goldman Sachs or any of these big companies' perspectives, like why would we go there? And so a lot of the career development that happens at Carleton is through alumni who say, hey, I went to this school, it was really hard, and I learned a lot from it, and I know that people who go to this school are gonna have great skills and can learn and can do all the things that we need to do. And so we really started to see that disconnect. And so we pivoted the business and we started to focus on hiring. And we started to realize that companies have been hiring the same way for decades. Right? They're applying the same baby boomer frameworks, campus recruiting, job boards, career fairs, all the stuff that worked in the 80s and the 90s, but that just doesn't apply to this new generation of internet talent. Like for us, I mean, to be able to Google something within 10 seconds, like Jatao, do you even do anything other than Google? I use Bing sometimes.
Like it's like we joke around, but like we didn't learn anything about building startups at Carleton. Everything we've learned has either been talking to Carleton alumni who've done it before, or just Googling stuff. And for us, it was just how do we connect these really bright young people, both students and alumni, with problems that they want to solve. And so we pivoted to connecting these high growth startups. So any startup that's raised a significant amount of money, they're probably solving some problem that's somewhat important. And so we just went to all these startups and we said, hey, what if we could help you hire all the best and the brightest people coming out of top liberal arts colleges? And they're like, sure, we'll pay you $10,000 per person we hire off your platform, or 10% of base pay. And we're like, okay. And so that's our business now. And it was one of those things where this happened like 6 months ago. So we're still kind of grasping with this. We just closed a funding round. So we've raised about $1 million to date. And we finally started getting paychecks. That was exciting. Chitao moved out of his girlfriend's mom's house. It's true. You want to talk about, hey, let's talk about being poor. That was like the struggle. Like, because everyone sees all the fun stuff about startups, like, oh yeah, this company raised $1 billion. And I think maybe 3 months ago, we had 12 cents in our checking account and 15 cents in our savings account.
It definitely hit negative.
Yeah, it was definitely negative. Yeah. We just got to a point where like we didn't have any money, no one believed in us, and it's like, man, this sucks. And then we pivoted the business, the traction started happening. This is cool. This company comes to us, they're called Jamf Software. They're just down in Washington. They had been acquired by Vista Equity Partners, so a big private equity firm. And they came to us and basically said, hey, we went from 500 to 1,000 people in the last year. Can you help us hire? Because we only have 3 HR people and we can't hire fast enough. And so we said, sure. And so Monday, they posted jobs on Homi. Tuesday, they emailed 45 of their employees saying, sign up for Homi, share your story, why you care about your company, why you're here. And within 12 hours, 15 of them had signed up for Homi. And I'm talking fully filled out profiles, like I want to help people from my college. Wednesday, we emailed 4,300 users on Homi from 22 colleges in 6 states. And by Friday, they had 8 applicants, 3 final round interviews, and they hired a psych major from Carleton. Wow. I was like, haha, yeah, right? And so that was cool. That was in June, and we just realized, boom, this actually works. And so then we were like, well, if we could do it for Jamf, who got acquired by Vista, we could do it for all of Vista's companies, because all these private equity firms just do the same thing. They gut the fat up top, bring in young, hungry talent. And so we did some digging, and it turns out that the co-founder of Vista Equity Partners is a Carleton alum, class 88 econ major, Stephen Davis. And so we emailed him. It's like, hey, Stephen, we did this for Jamf. And he's like, And so I think 10 minutes later, I get a call from a 415 Bay Area number. It's like, this is Stephen Davis. I have 30 minutes for you, 11:30 Pacific time tomorrow. It's like, okay. And so we got on the phone with him, and it was supposed to be this half-hour conversation, and it turns into an hour and a half, and he skips his other stuff. And at the end of it, he's grilling us on, what are existing initiatives colleges are doing, what are career center softwares that are out there, and how is this better than the existing competition? And at the end of it, he says, this is something huge. I want in. And so for 3 months after that, he started helping us think through go-to-market strategy and all those kinds of things. And he ended up closing out the last couple $100,000 of our funding round. And it was one of those moments where we went from a bunch of 20-something-year-olds running this website that we thought could help students meet alumni to this is the platform upon which all the top talent in the future will be hired. And we're building the future talent pipelines. And so all of this has happened in the last 3 months, and it's really exciting. We haven't shared this with anyone, no news outlets. I mean, this is actually really special because we wouldn't be here today if a lot of you hadn't helped us out or were on the platform or just supported us, really. So, yeah, that's all I had to say.
Q&A.
And with that, we'll be taking questions. And we really wanted this to be less of a talk. This is just this is a community that we really care about and who we hope care about us too. So we wanted to make this open, and if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. Questions? Yes?
So are you going to expand, or have you already expanded to people that haven't beyond BA, or is it BA focused still?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're actually, we're at 22 colleges in 6 states right now, and we could open up to every college in the country tomorrow. But what we really wanted to do was figure out how to build communities. Because if you have 10 or 20 people in this college community, it doesn't do anything. But when you have 1,600 Carleton alumni all on one app, and you can connect with these alumni within 3 taps of your phone, alumni who can fundamentally change your career in 3 taps of your phone, that's powerful. Right, so to answer your question, we're currently focused on bachelors, and we're specifically focused on top liberal arts colleges in the middle of nowhere, because those are the ones that get skipped out on during campus recruiting. Yes.
You tell some of the recent grads, I mean, what should they think about doing or getting prepared to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you want to talk about that?
What was the question?
Do you have any advice for recent graduates on what you should be doing and how to figure things out? I would say,
I mean, I think one of the great things about the internet is that, especially now, like the recent grads, they have something that they're passionate about. Almost everybody has a cause that they want to fight for, whether it be like sustainable energy or women's rights, Black Lives Matter, or like anything along that line. Everybody sort of just has that passion, and the tricky part is finding a way to apply that into your like work. Like for example, like one of our co-founders, his name is Matt Cotter, and he left. After he graduated, he worked for MongoDB for a couple of years, and then he worked for a high-frequency trading firm, and then now he wants to kind of take a step back and do something that is actually solving a problem, which is green energy. So he wants to apply his knowledge that he has gained in the last 4 or 5 years and help companies tackle these software problems that will further green energy. And that's one of those things where he's like, this is no longer about money. This is about working towards a problem that you're passionate about.
yeah, and to add on to that, we're seeing this big generational shift in how talent thinks about work. Right, so back in the day, it was you show up at work, you have a good attitude, and you just work hard, and you're there, and you put in the hours, and that's how work works. Nowadays, you have this new Gen Z, you call them Gen Z, they're people born after 1995, and they have a very different mindset when it comes to life and work. For example, one of the defining factors for us is, do you or do you not remember 9/11? And 9/11 was, I mean, for me, I was 6 years old, right? It was a terrible day, right? It was something where you felt like the world was turned upside down, but I was too young to really understand the gravity of the situation. I was in Southern California in the suburbs, and that for me was not as impactful as going home in 2008 and mommy and daddy sitting you down and saying, daddy just lost his job and things are going to be different, right? That's when you really start to lose your fundamental trust of institutions, and you realize that no one is here to help you out, and that you're in this on your own, and you got to get yours. And so you tack that on with social media, and you see everything else, the world is on fire, and you create this mentality of, well, I need to make money, and I need to make the world better. And so when you think about the new mindset of people coming out of college, that's what they're thinking. Which we think that, frankly, that's a good thing. We think that we need more young people solving problems that matter. And so one of our initiatives is finding companies that are really solving problems. So we just signed a company called DataVamp. They just raised $40 million from SoftBank to democratize healthcare data. They're making your healthcare data accessible to you at any time. And they're going from 40 people to 200 people. And from our standpoint, it's, well, yeah, if you're a former pre-med person that wants to go into private sector, this is the perfect company for you. But if it's just life is too short to be working on something that you don't care about and that doesn't matter. So that's kind of been the mentality that we've taken. Yes?
So, if I heard right, you bootstrapped for a while?
Oh, no, we didn't bootstrap. We didn't bootstrap. We were lucky enough to get funded by college, yeah.
So, I guess my question would be, could you just share a little bit more about the kind of ups and downs through that?
Yeah, for sure.
Chicken and rice.
Chicken and rice. So when we first started Homi, we had no money. We were college grads. I literally had like $40 in my bank account. And so we didn't have nowhere to go after graduation, so we just stayed on campus, and we broke into the White Center, and we lived in the green room, where the artists or the actors change. And we lived there for like a week and a half, and we lived off of Doritos that we stole from the alumni reunion. And what's actually really cool about that is one day we were like foraging through Burton, and we were just trying to find as many snacks as we could because we needed to survive. And this group of class of 1990 people come in, they're like, hey, do you want a beer? We're like, yeah, that sounds great. And so we're like drinking these Miller High Lifes with these alumni in front of Burton. And one of them's like, yeah, what are you guys doing here? It's So we told him our story, and he's like, oh, wow. And so you should come visit me in the city sometime. So this guy's name is Bill McKinney. He's a class of 1990 history major, and he became one of our first users on Homi. Right? He became one of the first alumni to really sign on and start helping people. And at the time, we were a Q&A platform. So it was students ask questions, alumni answer. And for a while, it was literally just a bunch of liberal arts majors asking questions of Bill McKinney in the comments, like, yo, this is how you do that. And what's crazy is that after 4 years, Bill is now joining our company. So Thrivent had a shakeup, Bill's no longer at Thrivent, and he's trying to figure out his next journey. And it's like, hey, Bill, we could really use your help. And so we sat down with him last week, and he's like, I would love to get involved. So we're onboarding him tomorrow morning, right? And those are the kinds of experiences that like, that we could have never predicted that, but that relationship took us so far, right? So that was like the glamorous part. We also had some like not so glamorous times where we learned how to cook for less than the instant ramen diet. So a pack of Shin ramen costs $1.29, depending on which grocery store you go to. We went to Costco and we loaded up on rice, chicken, onions, and eggs. And we ate chicken and eggs. And bell peppers. And we did that for like a year. And it was I feel like the people made it fun. The food itself was pretty like...
We lived together, like, in a house. We had a house in Uptown, 34th and Fremont. Got a great deal on rent from Joe, the lawyer.
Yeah, we had this lawyer guy who thought he felt like, he was like, I feel like Ehrlich from Silicon Valley. I'm gonna give you 30% off rent. And so we got like this cool 3-bedroom house for like $1,600, $1,800, utilities included.
Yeah.
And we just all piled in there, and every day we were like coding. Oh, I wasn't coding, I was just trying to like raise money for us. But actually, to answer your question about like how we got funded, there was a Carleton alum named Kathy James, and she had been really helpful in helping me find investment banking jobs and all that kind of stuff. And she's on the board of trustees, and I was like, hey Kathy, I know you're here for the trustee meeting. Do you have time for us to cook you lunch on campus? She comes over to our house. I was living in a 516 College Street. It was called Goat House at the time. And this is like a really, really gross house. Like, it's like, imagine 6 football dudes living in a house. It was just disgusting. So like the whole night before, we were like cleaning it and everything, and Kathy comes in, and we pitch her this idea. She's like, oh, this is cool. I'm in for $100,000. We're like, okay. And so we didn't know what to do. We were just like, oh, she's in for $100,000. And because we told her we're raising $500,000 and a $2 million pre-money valuation, and this is our plan. And she's like, okay, I'm in for $100K. And so I fly to New York 9th week. I missed Rockblatt senior year, which is like really heartbreaking. But I show up at her office, and I'm like, hey, Kathy, I'm here to pick up our check for $100,000. And she's like, so who are the other investors? I was like, I thought you were investing $100,000. It's like, no, I said I'd be one of your $100,000 investors out of the $500,000. And we're like, well, we don't have any money and we don't have nowhere to go after graduation, so would you think? And she's like, so what do you want to do? And this is like this big conference table, and she's like on the other end. It's like, and so we like pull out our laptop, and it's like, oh, Excel magic. We only need $20,000 to make this happen. No, just give us a chance. 3 months runway. And she's like, I'll give you $25,000. Don't fuck it up. And we did. And so then we went to Kathy again, and she gave us like $5K. And then we basically raised like $5K, $10K checks for 3 years. And we never knew if we had more than a month's runway left, and we were just kind of like grinding, and we just figured this has to work. Like students, alumni, it's a thing. Like people are helping us out. And so we just kept going for 4 years, and now
And then bought a food truck.
It was your idea.
We were joking about how, like, I forget the context in which this food truck idea appeared.
No, it was your idea.
I know, it came out of my head, and I like made a tiny food truck on an Excel spreadsheet, like coloring them, right, and then drew it on our whiteboard. And then Phil was like, I think we should buy a food truck.
We had just gotten funded, and we did what every startup does. We bought a food truck and we signed a hip hop artist, and we just thought the food truck will go around giving out free food to people at colleges, and people will sign up for the app if they get free food. And then this hip hop artist will be like performing, and people will go into shows for free because he's going to be a sensation. And the food truck actually worked out pretty well. Like,
Yes.
So we took the food truck around, and I was like cooking fried rice for frat bros at the U of M, like 200 at a time. And then one day we like pulled up in front of Thrivent Financial, and we fed 80 of their employees and gave them all free lunch. And Thrivent was like, oh, this is such an innovative idea. Like, we want to recruit off your platform. And they signed a deal with us that was worth more than our food truck. And we're like, okay, we're switching businesses. And then we realized now that we're in the HR space, we can't have weed smoking rappers on payroll. And so we severed ties with our hip hop connections. We've grown up a lot in the last couple of years, if you haven't noticed. But it was Jatao's idea, and I stand by that.
Executed by
All of us, our team. Any other questions?
Are most of your users in the tech space?
No, that's actually the interesting part. We thought this would just be like, I mean, this is really built off the back of like investment banking recruiting. And then we thought like, oh, tech people will use this because they're technically early adopters of technology. But really, this is a place where you go when you don't know what you want to do with your life. Because what's funny is that like we have a lot of different ages in this room, but I guarantee you that no one here actually knows what they want to do with their lives. And if you do, let me know, because I'm trying to figure that out. And so I would say that what Homi's really evolved into is a community. Right? There's 1,600 alumni on Homi right now from Carleton. There's 150 football players who are using Homi. 20% of all Carleton football players from 1959 all the way to the entire current roster are using this platform. And it's a place where these people know how hard it is to figure your life out and to find a job coming out of Northfield, and they want to help because they've been in your shoes before. And that's just a really powerful thing. Should we tell them, John, that you're sitting? Sure. Yeah. So we built groups, was it a year ago?
So we've always had groups. We had existential crisis about whether or not we wanted to keep groups. So when we first started, it was a Q&A platform with groups, and each group had its own separate Q&A. And then we were like, oh, we want, like, there's not enough traction and there's not enough people using it, so let's just combine all of the feeds into one. And then we made the groups so that it was just sort of like a, I didn't want to say fancy, it was just a directory of names of people who were part of these communities at Carleton. And then we redesigned the site, groups went away because we deemed it unnecessary, and then a year later we deemed it necessary again. So we came back with the directory idea, and then like 6 months later, I was like, what if groups had their own Q&A?
You make this sound really, that was pretty bad. Anyways, we basically just built a way where you could see all the people that were on your sports team or your club. And so the football team starts using it. Then we get hit up by this guy named John Winter. Okay. So it's a guy named John Winter. He's a class of '85 econ major, and he grew up in Minnesota. He tough upbringing, and he worked his way up to become the CEO of Barclays, the bank. And we're like, wow, this guy just wants to talk to us. That's pretty cool. And so we get on the phone, and I'm like, hey John, I don't know if you remember this, but I emailed you 6 years ago trying to get an internship at Barclays, and you took the time to talk to me, and you passed my resume, and it was really impactful. And he's just like, oh, I don't remember that. But I do want to invest in your company. So he just wires us money, doesn't sign the subscription agreements, and he's like, you should come visit me and my wife in London. I'm like, oh, I've never been to London. That sounds fun. And so next thing I know, I'm going to fly to London. And I show up at his front door with my little suitcase, and he just invites me into his home. And I stay with him for a little over a week. And I was like, look, I'm at your house. Let me cook you some Chinese food, because that's really all I'm good at. And so I make him Chinese food, and he's like, this is great. Let's throw a dinner party. And so he invites 12 of his friends over, and there's a cellist staying with us, and she plays the Stradivarius and is very accomplished. And I'm just in the back cutting onions. This is the most important meal I'm ever going to cook in my life. And all of this happened purely because of Carleton. Purely because he respects the education, the experience, all the things that go into being a Carleton person. And that's something I feel like we forget sometimes. We're fucking awesome. We are. And I just think that if we can really build this community up, then a lot of really good things will happen. So, what's your question?
Can you talk? I don't know if there is any communication, but I know that there were people here tonight from the Carleton Career Center. Mm-hmm. What is Homi's relationship like with the Career Center? Because as somebody that has had hiring power for the last few years, I've posted a lot of jobs in the tunnel, but not gotten much, and I'm not sure if that's because of regional differences or just lack of engagement with the tunnel.
Sure. Let's take a step back and explain our relationship with the Career Center, because that has been fun. So when we first started Homi, we thought, well, we're building the future of everything. Like, this is the future. Like, we're the smartest people ever. And so we walked in the Career Center, and I think I said the line, we don't think you do a very good job of helping students find jobs. And they didn't like that very much. And so they said, well, I don't think this makes sense for us as a platform, so you guys haven't even built anything yet, so go do your thing. And so we're like, okay. And so we spent like a year building the student alumni social network. And then one day we get an invitation from American Innovation. They're like, hey, we heard about your food truck, and we think it's super innovative, and like, we want you to talk about your business and what you're doing. And so I thought, well, hey, Jital hasn't done any interviews yet. Like, let's have Jital do an interview. What was the headline of that article? And so Jital said something, and then they're like, wow, we're going to put this in big, bold letters and quotes.
I can't repeat it.
So Jital said the exact same thing I did. So we don't think the Career Center does a good job of placing students in the careers. So we really just didn't do a very good job of like working with the college, because we were young, stupid, and well, just young and stupid. And we've gotten to a point now where we've grown up a lot. We've realized that the best way to help Carleton students and alumni find careers is to collaborate with the college and the Career Center. And so RJ, the director of the Career Center, is standing right behind you. And I have been having a lot of conversations about that, and we're super excited to be working together moving forward. Dan.
In case there's any other entrepreneurs here, what would be the cash price for a food truck these days?
That's a great question, Dan. And we're actually in the process of selling our food truck. So we've gotten a lot of pushback from our investors. They basically said, why in the world would you buy a food truck for a tech company? And we feel very strongly about it because it's gotten us to where we are. Unfortunately, it just really doesn't make sense for us to have a food truck. When we got our food truck for $30,000, it was the cheapest one we could find. I bought a one-way ticket down to Chicago, went to the south side, pulled out $29K in cash, and like bought this truck and then drove it back up here. And we put about $15K of work into it. We've got a couple offers for like 38, but I'll totally give you like a 20% Homi discount.
Thanks for the Homi discount.
Thank you. It's not a good time in Minnesota to run a food truck right now. Just FYI.
It comes with a generator and a jumper.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. I mean, thank you for listening to us ramble on and on about kind of what's been happening in the last 4 years. In a lot of ways, we're trying to wrap our heads around it, but we just know that we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're just going to keep asking for help from the alumni community, and we hope that you can do the same. So, thank you.